Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: what is something you only notice when it's bad? Audio sync to video. Absolutely horrendous when it's off by just a fraction of a second from seeing the mouth move to hearing the sound or hearing the sound before the mouth moves. Similar to this, when the closed captions are also off by a sentence. I use CC to fill in the gaps of what I didn't hear properly, and seeing the mouth move separately from the audio and then trying to read the captions that don't match and keep track of what is going on is headache-inducing. Yay, I had this watching a show on Netflix recently. It's called Kingdom and I think it's Korean. The dubbed voices obviously don't match the actors' mouth movements, but the CC doesn't even match what the English dub says. It really threw me off until I just decided to put the language to whatever the native was and read the subtitles fully. Your back. I sometimes catch myself thinking about not feeling any pain in my back, and try my hardest to truly appreciate the fact that it doesn't hurt and I can function like a normal human on this day. In November 2017, I was rear-ended by a guy doing 70 while I was stopped. Broke 9 ribs, my shoulder blade, and my sacrum. I have low back pain every damn day. Those days when I get the ice/heat/pain med mix just right and I get a reprieve are magical. How are the doctors about giving you pain meds? It's fucking rough out there for pain patients. Your nose when you're sick and congested. Being able to breathe clearly is great. Or good eyesight. It's a blessing to be able to see without external aids. Have worn glasses and contacts ever since I was a kid and wish I knew what that was like, but too afraid of laser surgery. Live sound mixing. No one looks at the sound booth guy/gal until there's mic feedback. Heck, it's been a movie cliche for years. The bad or newcomer bands have mics feedback just to signal the audience how bad they are, lol. Or every scene in any show or movie when someone uses mic they test to see if it's working and it feedbacks every time. As a live sound engineer, it's a huge pet peeve of mine. Brakes on your car. Nothing like slowly pressing on the brakes as you approach a red light to hear the demos scratching on a chalkboard. One time I was driving my father's car, but when I pressed on the brakes nothing happened and the car crashed. I was driving by myself, so I had no actual proof that the brakes didn't work. Both of my parents insisted that it was my fault, and they just wouldn't even consider the possibility that it was the brakes. I should mention that I wasn't injured, and I hit a rock which was big enough to stop the car. Bad brakes are quite easy to spot, even after most crashes. Septic tank issues. Plumbing in general. Heck, infrastructure in general. Who notices a not potholed road or consistently functioning electrical power? A lie. Good one. Main reason why it took me some time to notice. Tap water, air quality. Basically infrastructure. We take it for granted, but it takes 24/7 maintenance. Electricity, water, roads, food distribution, internet, etc. You only notice when the roads are bad because they haven't been serviced, when the internet is slow, when the grocery store has few supplies, when the water is funky, when the power goes out. Considering like 3/4 of my city is out of power, heat, and internet right now due to 2 ice storms plus trees plus power lines, this is quite true at the moment. CGI. Bad CGI can completely ruin a scene/movie. Good CGI, you'd never even think twice about it. Just wait 10 years and your good CGI may be bad CGI, unless you're talking about the original Jurassic Park. The dust that collects on the floor trim in the house. I know it's bad when I see the huge dust bunnies in the hallways next to the trim. Just live in candlelight. If you can't see it, it doesn't exist. For real. 2 of the 4 bulbs in my bathroom had been burned out for a little while, and I didn't know what wattage they were and stupidly got 75-watt bulbs. I had to take 2 of them out because, 150 combined watts is more than enough. The amount of cat hair and dirt I hadn't noticed before in the corners and on the baseboards. I always know when it's time to change the batteries in my makeup mirror because I'll think, I didn't have to pluck as many mustache and beard hairs as I thought I was going to, maybe they are finally going away. Abuse. Everyone asks why someone would stay with an abusive partner, but 99% of the time the abuse comes in spurts and the rest of the time is fine. Abusive partners aren't abusive all the time. Trauma bonding. It's a real bitch. The good times are great, but the abuse is temporary. The ebbs and flows with the abuse and love. / It's soul-breaking, too. I think we're conditioned to want it too. A love story doesn't make an interesting movie unless there's drama, death, danger, etc. I find myself thinking a lot, well, maybe someday I'll love someone like that again, but it'll never be as exciting as it was. Some combination of media and our own thrill-seeking wants something exciting over something healthy. Once you've had that intense trauma bonding, it's hard to snap out of it. Emotionally abusive parents too. They can paint this picture that everything about your family is great, but at home it's a different story. I think people think you need to be hit to be abused. There's some many subtle things your parents can do to mess you up. You only notice plotholes and inconsistencies when a film is bad. A good movie with plotholes can be forgiven as long as it doesn't break your immersion in the story. When a bad movie loses you, you tend to look for other things to focus on besides the story, hence nitpicking. You only notice plotholes and inconsistencies when a film is bad. A good movie with plotholes can be forgiven as long as it doesn't break your immersion in the story. Yup. Raiders of the Lost Ark has a ton of really bad / strange plot holes. Did he really ride a submarine the whole way? But it's awesome, so things are forgiven. I will address that specific plot hole. It was a World War II submarine, and early World War II as well, which means that it would operate on the surface unless it was at risk of air attack, performing an attack, or doing a hydrophone check. Don't get me wrong, they should have submerged at some point, but it is a possibility that they did. The bigger question is, why the hell did the bridge crew see him? This reminds me of the series Lost. See, I actually think the show was so good the plot holes at the end were forgivable. City government. Yep. I live somewhere with awful city government. Edit, changed we to I to ease confusion. You're going to have to narrow that down greatly. Back in 2000 my city amalgamated with a close by bigger city. Before the amalgamation we had all the latest stuff like snowplows, all our roads were in great shape, we had a bunch of community events that focused on our smaller community which has a lot of farming and outdoorsy stuff. After the amalgamation all our new stuff went to the big city and we were given all their older equipment. Slowly all the community events were phased out, eventually things like flower pots by intersections were removed. We no longer have a community Christmas tree / lighted park as the park was sold off. Our community lost its community spirit. Fuck, I hate this. Wish I had enough money to start my own town in the middle of nowhere with all these things and have it a 100% work from home city / make it a town paradise with all taxes going into just making it a better place instead of 60% of the budget going to the police force so they can play army guy with all that military gear they have. Aglito. When I finish my wife's sentences. If it's correct, the conversation goes on and we feel closer. If it's incorrect, I get chastised for interrupting her. Sorry, I'm your wife. I'm constantly getting pissy when people finish my sentences wrong. The worst is when someone asks you to explain something slightly complicated and they try and finish your sentences by guessing the answers. Like, come on, you asked me to explain the Doppler effect, let me think about it while I try and figure out how to explain it. Not only are you guessing wrong but you're interrupting my train of thought in the process. It's a lot less of an issue if I'm talking about my day and it's all coming from recall. It's a lot harder when I have to both remember physics and generate a visual metaphor to explain it. When I was a kid, I talked really fast, very quietly, and mumbled. I was extremely hard to understand. My mom, in an amusing effort to try to make me speak more clearly, started guessing what I'd said, but she'd guess the most improbable thing she could think of that sounded remotely like the noises I was making. After getting used to it, I simply started agreeing that yes, that bit of nonsense is 100% what I said. This started an unspoken tradition in my family where we would finish each other's sentences with complete absurdity and then continue on the conversation as if everything made complete sense. Internet speeds. I hate when it buffers on the dude's vinegar face. Forever unclean. A tooth. The tooth hurts. You can't handle the tooth. Your health. Sports officiating. They make 99.9% correct calls but that 1% is all that gets noticed. The thing is that the 1% of bad calls can completely change a game. Try watching English Premier League football, soccer. They introduced a new video assistant referee. Supposedly with video playback it would eradicate mistakes, but it's actually made it worse. TBF, it would ruin the game when they try to define whether a player is a fingernail offside. Subtitles. When you're used to seeing subtitles, you rarely notice them when they're accurate. As soon as they're bad, it's hard to focus on anything else. Subtitles are a huge problem in Spanish, because most media that gets translated to Spanish has two dubs, one for Spain and one for Latin America. But they usually only make the subtitles for the Spain one, and you end up with subtitles saying completely different stuff. It makes me go bonkers, and is one of the reasons I learned English.